Hey, what's up everybody? This is C.L.S. All-in-One. In today's video, I'll be reviewing a very cool Android car stereo with a giant 13.1-inch screen made by Cidava for 2014 through 2018 GMC Sierras and Chevy Silverados. So here's what my car stereo looked like before in my GMC Sierra. It's a nice stereo, but it has become somewhat dated and lacks in a lot of modern features such as CarPlay and Android Auto. And here's what my truck looks like now with the new car stereo from Cidava. So this is basically a turbocharged Android tablet that has been optimized with software and hardware to make it function as a car stereo. And it features a built-in trim plate which is molded around this car stereo to give it a more factory look. And here's some of the other features and specs this has. This is considered to be a plug-and-play device, so there's no need to cut or splice any wires during the installation. This has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Android Auto, and CarPlay support. And it also has a SIM card slot, so if you want to add your own dedicated cell service for just the car stereo, you can. This is compatible with the stock backup camera, and it's capable of retaining OnStar services for the vehicles that still have a functioning service. And this is compatible with the premium Bose speakers, but a separate module is required. And this car stereo is powered by the Qualcomm QCM6125 processor that can reach speeds up to 2 GHz, and it has 128 GB of memory and 8 GB of RAM. Now let's take a look at what's inside the box. It comes with 2 bags of various different wire connections and adapters, and at first glance, just looking at the amount of wires involved may seem like an overwhelming job, but since everything is plug and play, it's really not that bad. And here's the car stereo itself, along with a welcome card with some contacts listed on here for if you have any questions regarding this product. And I did try the phone number with a quick question I had, and I was able to get that answered rather quickly. This does come with a blue plastic film that protects it from being scratched during installation, but for review purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and take this off for now so we can get a look at this. So this has a nice matte black finish and holes for the heater control panel, along with plugs that can be removed to install the heated seat controls if your vehicle is equipped. And here's a look at the back of the stereo and all the connection inputs. And here's a diagram that shows some of the connection points inside the vehicle. And there is also a note that talks about some additional steps needed to get the reverse camera working on some of the 2018 plus vehicles. And here's a quick look at the Bose audio system module, which does have to be purchased separately. So this is only required if your vehicle has the Bose premium speakers. And since my vehicle does have this feature, I will be using this module. So there's a lot of different connections and components included with this car stereo, but some of the connections are designed for different stock stereos, and some of the components may not be needed for some vehicles, such as the external chime speaker, which was not needed in my 2014 GMC Denali pickup. So for this video, I'm not going to do a full tutorial on the install portion of this video, but rather a summary of the installation, but I will leave a link to a full install video in the description. So the first step will be disconnecting the power to the car stereo, and I'll do that by disconnecting the negative battery cable. Next, the bottom portion of the glove box will need to be removed, which is secured with 4 T15 screws. And this will give you access to the HMI module, where a couple of connections for the reverse camera and stock USB ports will need to be connected. Then, with the use of a dash trim pry bar, the trim surrounding the stereo can be popped loose, and the clips that hold this in place will eventually need to be removed, then reinstalled on the back of the new stereo. And if you do have heated seat controls, those connections will need to be unplugged, and the buttons themselves will need to be removed so they can be installed on the new trim plate. Now the car stereo itself can be removed by removing the 4 7mm screws located in each corner of the stereo, as shown here circled in yellow. Then the stereo can be pulled loose, and there should be a couple of connections to unplug on the back. And once the stereo is unplugged, the heater controls will need to be removed from this trim plate. And this is held in place with just some small tabs on the back side, so it pops loose rather easy. And now this can be moved over to the back of the new car stereo trim plate and popped in place. And if you do have heated seat controls, those buttons can be moved over now as well by removing the plugs on the new trim plate. Then, if your vehicle is equipped with a CD player, that will need to be removed by taking out the two 7mm screws and unplugging the connection. Then a jumper wire harness will need to be plugged into that connection. Next, if you want to get your steering wheel controls working, this T-adapter wire harness will need to be used. To do this, the bottom half of the plastic cover on the steering wheel column will need to be removed, and this connection right here will need to be unplugged. Then the T wire harness will plug into this connection. Then the stock connection will plug into the other end of this T harness. Then the remaining wires will need to be routed under the dash and into the stereo cavity. This car stereo does have a built-in microphone, but I was unable to get it to work. So I just went ahead and installed the included external microphone in my overhead console and routed the wires through the headliner, then down the side pillar, then through the side of the dash, and over to the stereo cavity. And here's a look at my microphone after the install, and I think it turned out pretty good. Now it's time to start plugging in all of these connections, and some of these need to be tucked behind the dash still, but at this point I just want to get everything hooked up so I can test this. So all of these connections I used were plug and play, so I did no wire splicing whatsoever, which was nice. Most of these connections will only fit one connection, so it's pretty straightforward on where everything connects. And here's a look at the Bose speakers retention module, which is also plug and play. And for my antennas, such as this GPS one, I mounted it above this existing module inside the dash right here with some double-sided tape. And now it's time to hook the battery back up and test the radio. During this test, I would recommend leaving the stereo unmounted until you verify everything is working as it should, such as the sound, controls, and the backup camera. And if something ends up not working, it's more than likely either a loose connection or something that has not been connected yet. So just double check everything if you have any issues. And it looks like everything is working good on mine, so I will get all these wires hidden and tucked in and put everything back together. As far as the looks go with this stereo, I really like it. It seems to fit well and it's secure. The only complaint I would have is that it does not have the brushed metal trim on the stereo trim plate like it had before, but it still looks nice just being black. This stereo has a ton of features, such as built-in navigation with Google Maps, but you will need to be connected to Wi-Fi or have a SIM card connected with active service to use some of these features. But you can also use your phone connected via Bluetooth for navigation and much more with the use of Android Auto or CarPlay. There's also a ton of settings you can play with, such as your navigation app preference, boot logos, virtual buttons, display brightness, and much more. And this is capable of making phone calls via Bluetooth with your phone connected or with an active SIM card plugged into this car stereo. So this does come with a handful of apps that are pre-installed that you can mess around with, or you can head over to Google Play and install extra apps. And there's also an app where you can change the theme, and that's what we're going to do right now. Some of these themes may be a little bit too bright when it's nighttime, so if you have issues with the screen being too bright, I would suggest picking a darker theme, such as number 38. And here's a look at the boot logo I chose for my vehicle, which is just a GMC logo for my GMC Denali pickup. This does feature a virtual readout for the heater and AC controls, and they seem like they'd be virtual buttons you could push as well, but they seem to be just for visual use only. Also, the temp was only reading in Celsius, so I did have to reach out to the phone number supplied in the box to get an update to fix this issue. So there is quite a few themes you can choose from, and most of these are somewhat customizable as well. As shown here, I can just grab an icon and move this to wherever I choose. As far as the sound goes, it sounds great and gets plenty loud with a lot of settings you can play with, such as surround sound mode, and EQ settings including presets and manual options. The only thing I would complain about with the sound is that the fade for the front and back speakers does not seem to work. It seems like everything is linked with the front speaker zone, with all speakers playing at the same volume level, but the balance from left to right does seem to work as it should. So I have only downloaded a few apps on this stereo so far. And Project M is one I would recommend. This is a new age spectrum analyzer that gives your music some eye candy, but I would not recommend staring at this while driving. And here's another theme I think looks really cool because it has Google Maps integrated into the home screen. Local movie theaters.
Head south on Williams Street toward 3rd Street, then turn right onto 3rd Street.
And if I want to make the navigation map bigger, all I have to do is touch the navigation icon and that'll make it go full screen. There is also a radio tuner built into this car stereo, so if you want to listen to the radio like the good old days, you can. And here's a quick look at some of the other apps that are installed on this car stereo. And again, if you're looking for more apps, you can just visit the Google Play Store to download whatever you're looking for. And just like the other theme, this one can be customized as well. You can just long press on one of these apps at the bottom, and that'll bring up a list of available apps that can be placed here. So right now I'm going to add the Phone Link app to the home screen, and this app will give me access to Android Auto, CarPlay, and screencasting options. And since I have an Android Auto capable phone, I'll go ahead and select Android Auto. And you can connect either wireless or with a USB cable. So both Android Auto and CarPlay work pretty similar to each other. They allow you to navigate, stream music, make phone calls, and give you limited access to a bunch of other apps as well. Movie theaters that are close by. So this Android Auto feature seems to work pretty well. However, I have noticed that sometimes my phone does take a while to connect. It can take up to about 30 seconds. Now let's take a look at some of the other apps I can access using Android Auto. Here is Spotify. And I can select some music to play here and have that display either full screen or share the screen with navigation. And here's a look at the backup camera. When I put my truck in reverse, it automatically switches to the reverse camera. And as you can see here, the lines move with the wheels turning back and forth as well. The steering wheel controls seem to work good and can be reprogrammed with various different commands. But when you try to use the voice command button on the steering wheel, it tries to activate the built-in stock voice assistant on my vehicle, which is now no longer available. Also, I noticed there does not seem to be a way to program the new voice assistant for the Android car stereo to work with any of these steering wheel controls. But it can be used to access various different apps such as Android Auto, which can be useful. And if your vehicle previously had a USB port that was tied in with your stock car stereo, that can also be used with the new Android car stereo. And I'll demonstrate that here by plugging in this flash drive that has some music and movie files on it. And as you can see here, they can now be played back on the new car stereo. And with this music app, it's also capable of displaying album art and track info. That is, if it exists in the music data. Now let's take a look at some more apps I have installed on this. This is one I installed. This is called the Audio Bars Music app, and this is another spectrum analyzer that moves with the beats of the music. And maybe this is just because I'm old school, but I really like spectrum analyzers. And this is probably because it reminds me of the stereos in the 90s. Now let's try the video app. And I got one movie on the flash drive here. It's giving me a little warning message here, but we're going to go ahead and skip that. And as you can see, this seems to be playing just fine. And here is a GPS app that lets me know what satellites are available, and it looks like there is quite a few. Here is the Chrome browser app, and once again you'll need connected to the internet to be able to use this type of app. And here is a file manager app that allows you to access files and folders and move stuff around if you choose to. And if your vehicle is equipped with an auxiliary input that's been connected to this car stereo, that audio can be heard here with the aux-in app. And located inside the car settings app, you'll find various different settings you can mess around with and play with, but to be honest, I haven't tried changing any of these, and a lot of these options don't seem like they apply to my vehicle. So for now, I will just leave these settings the way they are. And it looks like there's also some settings for the OnStar service, but unfortunately my vehicle no longer has a functioning OnStar service. And if you're looking for a more complete manual for this car stereo, you can find it with this PDF app right here. There should be a file inside here you can open, and this brings up a nice colored manual. So there is a whole bunch of other settings you can mess with inside the system settings for the Wi-Fi, mobile network, Bluetooth, audio, display, and various other general settings, which makes this car stereo incredibly customizable, and this is something I really like about this stereo. So here's my final thoughts about this Android car stereo. It seems to work really well, and it looks great. The screen has a nice and vivid display, and with it being 13 inches, it really stands out. It does have a screen protector pre-installed, but I noticed it seems to be scratching rather easy, so I might need to install a different screen protector at a later point. The sound output quality is good and it gets plenty loud, but the lack of fading control from front to back is kind of a bummer, but this might be able to be corrected with just a simple update. The price of this is somewhat expensive, especially if you have to get the Bose module as well, but this car stereo seems to be much nicer than a lot of the other alternatives out there that may be cheaper. And since this is pricey, I would recommend getting a protection plan with this stereo to protect your investment. So overall, I'm very happy with my new car stereo. I've had it installed for a few weeks now, and it's still working just like it should. And if for some reason I do end up with some issues in the future, I'll be sure to leave a comment down below to keep you updated. Okay, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, if you could, hit that like button, and please subscribe. And have yourself a great day, and I'll see you next time.